Hi again then guys, and welcome to another installment of the Automotive News Roundup on the channel. For those who are unfamiliar with the series, it's a very random series that drops all over the place regarding especially supercar and hypercar news, not just in Gran Turismo or in the gaming world, but in real life as well, and sometimes it even pertains to Goodwood. And funnily enough, even though Goodwood 2019 has now passed of course, this is kind of still tied into it, because this car was teased at Goodwood as the Lotus Type 130. Now 130 of these cars, which is actually called the Lotus EVIJA, are going to be produced, and I have to say this is the first time in a long time that I've had this level of interest in any Lotus model, because a lot of them for me are very much like McLaren, wherein they just feel like they're churning out all of these different variations of essentially the same concept, which started with the Elise. That just doesn't interest me too much. I love this because it's not so much a return to the supercar world, which they've arguably not been in since the street version of the Elise GT1 in the 90s, which is still my favourite Lotus ever. This one is not just jumping back into that fray, it's going way beyond it. This isn't just a supercar, it's a hypercar, something on the level of a Rimac, or an Aston Valkyrie, or a Mercedes AMG Project 1, and a number of others too. Now, it's a full EV. Very interesting development there for Lotus. It's not a hybrid, they're just going all in on electric power. And speaking of electric power, it's a bruiser, because they really are making a statement with this car. In fact, according to Lotus, it's the most powerful series production car ever built. 1,972 brake horsepower and 1,700 Newton meters of torque. It is all-wheel drive, has motors powering each wheel, and a mid-mounted battery pack. This is some pretty impressive stuff. Now, the performance that they're claiming for the car is still fairly conservative. They're claiming 0 to 60 in, quote, under 3 seconds and a top speed of, quote, over 200 miles per hour. Sure, sure, I'm certain it's going to do that, of course. With 2,000 horsepower and so much torque on tap, obviously it's going to hit 60 in under 3 seconds, especially with all-wheel drive. Now, as far as the tech goes, it borrows a lot from technology in Le Mans, technology in Formula Racing. It has, as well, active aero for low drag mode. It has 2 very large Venturi tunnels to help, again, with the downforce and with the stability. And it's not unlikely that the car's top speed will probably be somewhere in the 200 region, maybe 220 at best, because typically electric cars don't tend to have as high a top speed. And it's not that they can't be built to have a good top speed, it's that it's just not particularly viable. You tend to burn through battery power very quickly, they become very inefficient at those speeds, they produce excess heat, and also it's generally speaking just to protect the batteries. That's why cars like the SLS electric drive back in the day, even Teslas, tend to be limited to around 150. So this is no surprise there as far as top speed, but the acceleration is something that I'm really looking forward to seeing in terms of what this car can actually do. With all-wheel drive, most of its weight in the center of the car, where the engine would usually be, now it's the battery pack instead, and certainly some striking styling as well, especially from the back where it literally looks like nothing else out there. I'm actually pretty excited to see what this one can do. We're moving into an interesting new hypercar era where you could argue the market's been a little bit dormant for a couple of years. You've had supercars trickling in, but the 2000s era of supercar production was pretty much unprecedented. You had so many new names coming out, so many names rising to what we now know them as, like Koenigsegg, Spiker, Pagani, but even all these others like Gumper, Ascari, the Murcielago, the SLR, the Carrera GT, the Veyron, the Saleen S7, the Mosler. It was an amazing era. Then it kind of went a little bit quieter for a while. And now it seems that the hypercar class is kind of reinvigorating that love once again with Mercedes, Aston Martin, Lotus now, various other brands as well, of course the more boutique, more outlandish ones like De Tomaso and Rimac. So pretty cool stuff. So stick around, of course, for more news like this in the future. And of course, we're looking forward to seeing what Lotus can do with this. And personally, I'm very curious as to whether or not this may compete. It would have to be heavily modified, but whether or not it may compete in the hypercar category at Le Mans. I doubt it, but it's possible. Of course, it would have to have a completely different engine layout, because as far as I know it wouldn't be allowed to run as a full EV, but still an interesting base vehicle that they could potentially change and use if they wanted to. But overall, that's it for this breaking news vid. Of course, as I said, stick around on the channel for more, and for now, as always, Thanks for watching.